23. A few topics before we get into the meeting agenda. First of all, as always, this meeting is being recorded and is subject to rebroadcast, so please keep that in mind if you're going to make any open forum comments this evening. Chairman Bonifant is geographically remote, so our votes this evening will be taken by roll call. We will not be taking public comment during the general business topic A, which is the firearms bylaw discussion item. So if you have comments related to that, please make them during open forum. I will ask that we keep our open forum comments to under 4 minutes if possible, so we can keep our meeting on schedule this tonight. And normally I go to the board before I go to the audience for for open forum comments. Tonight we'll actually take any open forum comments from town staff. We'll then go to the audience, and then we'll go to the board, so that in case there's any response that anyone would like to give to what we hear in open forum this evening, we can do that. Great. All right, so with that, we start tonight, as we always do, with open forum. Is there anything, Jeff or Joe, that you have for open forum?
Just if anyone is here tonight for the 0 and 210 Littleton Road application, late today, we did receive a request from the applicant to continue that public hearing without discussion to the next planning board meeting, which is November 20th, I believe. So if you're here tonight for 0 and 210 Littleton Road, it should be happening at the next planning board meeting and not tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe?
Nothing from me.
Chief Chambers, great to see you as always. Any comments for open forum from you tonight, sir?
For open forum? No, I don't believe so, but I just wanted to make sure I was available for any questions the board may have or any of the members of the public.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Then we will go to the audience. If anybody has comments for open forum, please step up, name and address for the record.
I sit down?
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Dennis Galvin, and I live, my name is Dennis Galvin. I live at 90 Concord Road. Former member of the board for 12 years. I wanted to just share a couple of brief comments with the board about the issue that you're going to be discussing on the agenda, just as a perspective for you to consider. There are 3 issues that I see with this, and having had some experience with the Constitution, I'd like to share these with you. The first one is I want to caution the board about special permit authority. The whole pretext of special authority is that you have the right to ban a use. And that, for example, in the asphalt plant, there was a designated use that was prohibited, so therefore we were able to ban it, or if not, we were able to allow it with certain conditions. You can't ban a constitutional right. So the pretext or the premise behind the special permit is sort of undermined by that, right? You can do it with new construction, right? But imposing, now there's some issue about whether or not this permit is necessary to be able to create some divisions. Remember one thing, you issue site plan review and you issue special permits with regards to that. So what happens is, most of the businesses that are going to be sought to be sites for this type of commerce are already been pre-approved by site plan review. If you impose a separation issue on a building that obviously has been approved already, what you may be doing is retroactively going back and changing that site plan review, and you have to bear that in mind. And if it looks as though you're going at that thing and you're doing it selectively, you could raise an issue of arbitrary and capricious effort. The other thing too is there's an issue of cross jurisdictions, and it's the planning board's role has always been that of site plan review, special permits, community development. That is the essence in the area in the bellwork which you're supposed to operate in. Right? Public safety and security has been designated basically in state law, and particularly in some of the laws that pertain to this, in the purview of the chief of police as well as the Board of Selectmen. For example, the Board of Selectmen are the ones who issue liquor permits and things like that, specifically in their area. Chapter 140, Section 22B clearly puts the onus on the licensing of firearms with the police and with the police chief and with the Board of Selectmen. And it's a public safety role, and my recommendation is that's where it should stay. Now, the last thing I want to leave you with is the regulation of firearm sales. Does this mean you can't regulate firearm sales? No, it does not. All right, you can regulate, and you can regulate extensively. All right, and I would urge the board to review the old medical marijuana provisions. All right, there's some very extensive regulations in that particular bylaw that could serve as a model. The bottom line is, to regulate a constitutionally protected right, you have to be able to establish the code of regulations up front, specifically what you want in that regulation. The applicant then comes to you, and if the applicant is able to apply and meet those particular criteria, then the right to operate has to be allowed. All right, that's the big difference between a constitutional liberty and one that's not. For example, if you want to run a rally or a speech on a common, you can't be prohibited, but the town can put regulations about how you're going to conduct yourself. And that's a good model to remember when you're dealing with this particular issue. So that's it. I just want to give you those ideas, and I wish you luck. And it's not an easy job, is it? So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Galvin, for your comments. Okay, more open forum comments. Okay, given that, I'll go to the board for comment. Chairman Bonifant, I'll start with you since you're remote. Anything for open forum tonight, Mike? Mike?
Oh, that's muted. Jeff. Should be connected, right? Yeah, it seems fine.
Go to Bob. Bob, any comments for open forum tonight?
No, just compliments to the committee for the MBTA workshop we did, I guess now a week and a half ago. Three of us went, and it was, I found it very useful, very insightful. There's obviously some work to be done, because there were 5 separate workshops, and I know 2 or 3 of them produced results that were contra to one another. One was a little more free form, and you got to kind of participate in some design exercises, and that kind of contradicted the one where we went and just red and green dot what was good and what was unacceptable, let me call it, for the style of developments. So it's obvious that, you know, whoever did the red dots for certain weren't participating in the other design workshop and designing things that were very innovative, but against the style that people had said was not acceptable. But all in all, I mean, it was a very well-run event. Took a lot of staff from the contractor that did it, because they were running the 5 separate workshops, and there was some good discussion. If anything, they probably needed another hour. It was hard to do all 5 workshops that they had set up, but the ones you got to participate in were, as I said, thought-provoking, and taught me a lot about those issues. So all in all, very, very good. Whoever ran the committee, congratulations. It was a well-run workshop.
Excellent. Yeah, great.
And it was, what, maybe 60 people, 70 people?
Somewhere around there.
So it was well-attended.
Yep.
It was good.
Oh, good. Very productive, I thought. Staff did a great job.
So,
Great.
yeah.
Thanks, Bob. Joni?
The only thing I have to say is I absolutely agree with Bob. It was a great workshop, and thanks to the staff and the consultant, it was amazing. Did an amazing presentation. Great job.
And the committee.
Committee.
And the committee.
And the committee.
Yeah.
Yes.
I should have gotten up, I'm sorry.
Oh, please.
I'm late.
That's okay.
Diane Wood, 122 Depot. Since we're not going to be allowed to ask questions later, and I disagree with your whole process, to be quite honest, the audience has no idea what you're going to discuss, so we're not in a position or prepared to ask questions or have that discussion with you. So the audience and the community is at a loss to be able to rebut any comments that you're going to make tonight. That's one comment. But I do want to ask what the process is going to be. If you could walk us all through what the steps are and the meetings and co-sponsoring with Select Board, and if you could address that, that would be most appreciated. Thank you.
Sure. I will address that in my comments, and I'll go last in my open forum comments. Anybody else from the audience before I continue with the board for open forum? That's fine. No?
That's
Joni,
it.
anything
That's
else?
it.
Great.
Thank you.
Darren? Okay. Mike, anything for open forum?
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, it was before I unmuted by accident. Did mute by accident. It's just in this discussion, I'd let you guys know that no, I would support the chief plan. I believe that the 1,000 feet between the schools is federal, so I would support that. I would not support including the gun clubs.
Okay. Great. So then I will comment. So to speak to the process, what we are doing this evening is a general discussion about the firearms bylaws. What we've received in our packet from town staff is amended language from the bylaw amendment that was heard at the special town meeting. This is not a public hearing topic. It will ultimately become a public hearing topic, and then we will hear really a lot of comment from members of the town who wish to comment during the public hearing process. I will remind you, Ms. Wood, and I know that you attended many of our meetings, if not all of them previously, that this board has heard hours and hours of public comment. So I don't think we're going into this discussion unaware of the feelings and opinions of the residents of the town of Westford. Certainly right now, what we're going to do is provide feedback to town staff to bring back to town council and come back to us with some answers. In a brief discussion I had with Jeff earlier today, I'm of the opinion, but I'm not the chair, that we would review that again as a general business topic prior to starting the public hearing, so that we can be very clear and in alignment as this board as far as what we're prepared to present for public discourse. But again, that's just one board member's opinion. So, did I answer your question regarding the process?
And if I may, Dylan, I think we're gonna follow in some ways the process we followed last time.
I agree.
We are gonna have to come up with our proposal well before the public hearing process. We will decide and we'll negotiate with the select board and others if we're gonna jointly co-sponsor it. During that whole process, it was open, I expect it will be open again to public comment.
Yeah.
And once we come to an agreement of what's going to be put on the warrant, once that warrant is published, then we can start a public hearing process. So in essence, there's going to be two open periods of time where public comments can be provided, one less formal than the other. But, you know, it's going to follow the same general process we followed last time, with the exception that we have a pretty good model that we've now pared back from. And really what we're doing tonight is just giving guidance to town staff on any changes to that framework.
Yep.
And asking questions, as you said.
Yep. I am of the opinion, and I will offer this counsel to Chairman Bonifant. Again, he will be running the meetings when we do go to public hearing. We entertained a lot of discourse in the last public hearing process that had nothing to do with the actual article that wound up going before special town meeting. We had everything from personal opinions that we'd already heard stated a third or fourth time. I would venture to say we heard people's origin stories regarding their backgrounds, a lot of things that were not directly relevant to the language in the zoning bylaw. My suggestion when we do go to public hearing with this topic is that we limit conversation specifically to items that are relevant to the article itself. That's, again, just one board member's opinion. With regard to Mr. Galvin's comment, and perhaps this is a segue as we move into our first topic, which is general business item A, a discussion related to firearms bylaws, I would say, Jeff, at the risk of starting, which I generally don't when I'm chairing, I usually bat cleanup, I would like to get town council's opinion regarding the special permit requirement again. And Mr. Galvin, in case you weren't watching when this was originally brought before us, this board was very much divided on the need for a special permit originally. Some members of the board thought it was perhaps appropriate. Several members of the board felt it should be site plan review only, perhaps with conditions. What we were told at the time was that it required a special permit to achieve the two outcomes that Chief Chambers would like to have, specifically the separation between firearms businesses, as well as the need for a security plan to be signed off by the Chief of Police prior to the issuance of a special permit. I would like town staff to follow up specifically with town council on that to ensure that that is in fact a requirement, and perhaps opine more as to why.
Sure, happy to do that.
Fantastic.
So we will, when we work with council, we'll add that to the request.
I do know as well, just speaking to Mr. Galvin's secondary comment regarding this body as the special permit granting authority, I know that there was discourse on that during our joint meeting with the select board. At the risk of making an assumptive leap, it didn't strike me that the select board was eager to step into the breach and be the special permit granting authority. I believe I recall them saying that because it's a zoning issue, they were happy for this board to be that. If town council has any opinions related to Mr. Galvin's perspective on whether or not this body should or should not be the special permit granting authority, I'd be happy to hear those as well.
I don't think your recollection is inaccurate, and under the laws, certain bodies can be designated as a special permit granting authority. Planning board, of course, is one of them, zoning board as well. So too can the select board be designated as some permit granting authority. So
Right.
it's certainly within this board's purview.
Sure.
But I don't disagree with your recollection
Yeah, okay,
of that event.
great.
And
I
building
can-
upon that,
Yes.
Dylan, the other questions, it may be too early, but the state legislature right now is entertaining a potential new firearms bill. And my understanding in talking to our state rep is that it potentially would put a bulk of the review that we were talking about, the Westford police performing, in the hands of the state police. And I guess I would also welcome town council's early assessment as to any other impacts to this that they could foresee this having. I would certainly like to understand if that were to happen, could we still ask for a safety plan from the Westford Police, or would that pretty much remove that power from them? So there's a lot of questions that now come in because of all of the potential new aspects of the new law. And that, again, is still in discussion. It's my understanding it has not been voted upon at this time.
Okay. Good stuff. All right, so perhaps a segue then, Jeff, do you want to lead us into the actual revised language that's in our packet?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. or Acting Chair. So what we've done, this version pretty much removes much of what was in the last version of the bylaw that was before town meeting. It tends to eliminate all of the buffers with the exception of the separation distance between one firearm business to another. We have a question as to whether or not the board wants to maintain a buffer relative to schools. So that's one of the two big outlying questions we have. There's no longer any limitation on the number of special permits that can be issued for firearm businesses. We heard a few times, and I think as reiterated by Mr. Bonifant earlier, there was some concern about the clubs, and so perhaps do you want to consider removing firing ranges from the definition of firearm businesses? So it would be very clear, not only would they not be grandfathered, it just would not be affecting them in any way whatsoever. We also believe it's very likely if there were a commercial firing range, say indoor firing range, it's very possible that would still be subject to a site plan review if it's considered commercial recreation. And it's also possible that such firing ranges are likely to involve the sale of ammunition, which would then trigger them being a firearm business anyhow. So if your goal is to try to have a version of a bylaw that might have the least resistance, perhaps removing firing ranges from the definition is something you want to at least consider. I know it was mentioned at least once or twice before. So those are some of the high-level issues. Obviously, there would be language throughout that would also be affected. You remove sections and references to those sections. There could be some opportunity to streamline some of the language. There's a little language that we highlighted in some bluish. It seems a little repetitive or redundant. We would just want to check with council first if there are any unintended consequences for considering removing that language. But we're just looking to get the high-level direction from you folks tonight so we can go to council and come back with vetted language and to have some of those questions that you asked about tonight answered in writing.
Great. Fantastic. Okay, so, everybody got that? Okay, so, Mike, do we have you?
Yes, I'm there.
Great. So I think your comment during open forum was sort of related to this. I don't know if you wanted to sort of reiterate that now that Jeff has kind of put on the table the areas he's looking for feedback on for town council.
No, I think he understands where I'm at. I think the questions you guys have raised are good questions for answers from town council. Maybe just also see if he can determine whether or not that 1,000 feet is federal.
Okay.
For the schools.
So can I ask a clarifying question? So if there is a federal requirement that firearm businesses not be located within 1,000 feet of schools, Are you of the mind that it doesn't matter if you put it in, or you're saying don't put it in because it's already taken care of?
Well, it doesn't matter if it's in or if it isn't. I support it.
Right.
I don't think it's a deal breaker, but I'm just curious. If it's there, then we've already had that protection.
My personal feelings on this is I would want it to be consistent. I think it's fine if we also include it in our bylaw, but I would want it to be consistent with what's already covered in, if it's already federally regulated, we should at least be consistent with what's called for, or at the very least, not less than within our bylaw.
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay, so what's the pleasure of the board? Do we want to go through the issues? Because I've sort of, if I digest what Jeff said, we sort of need to discuss buffers. There's the topic of firing ranges, there's the number of total permits, and then there's some general, I guess, language in question, specifically, I guess, section 668 under operational requirements, potentially redundant language of number 5, which I guess realistically you're just going to get validation from town council on whether that can be safely removed or if there's consequence, which is fine for me, because that was the question I had, is why are we striking 5?
Because it's very similar to
Would
4.
Yeah, understood. Would each board member like to cover all of the topics individually, or do we want to go through them and offer?
Probably do it individually would be
Yeah.
easier.
Fantastic. Would you like to lead us off?
Okay, which one do you want me to start with?
Oh, you want to go through each item individually?
Individually on
Great.
the items,
Then
yes.
let's discuss buffers.
I'm fine with the way it is presently. My key has always been listening to the chief's advice.
Yep.
For the 500-foot buffer between firearm businesses, and it maintains that. So,
Great.
I'm good. Regarding the 1,000-foot buffer, I would like to see it remain in the bylaw.
Yep.
In the sense that if we're going to respect the federal, we might want to put in certain language that it would be the greater of the two, because the federal could get changed.
Sure.
And I would like, if we believe in the 1,000-foot buffer with the schools, then we should leave it in the bylaw to protect ourselves.
Yep.
Recognizing that in the case that the federal went larger, we would have to obviously adhere to that,
Got it. Okay.
so.
Great. Joni, with regard to, sorry, Jeff, did you have something?
No, we'll just have council check for consistency.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joni, thoughts on buffers?
My thoughts on buffers is, I agree, I am very happy with what the chief wants. The 500 from the existing other firearm businesses, I agree that we should include the 1,000 feet from the school. The only thing I would think about including is, in my mind, a child care center is a school. Now, I know it's not defined as a school, but in my mind it is. So maybe a child care center should really still be in. As far as these other items, I think, where children congregate, that is all very difficult to define. And the religious uses, I agree, could come out.
Okay, thank you. Darren?
Yeah, I'm happy with the changes made. I think the main concern for me is the chief's concern, and I think that's covered here. And I'd like to get clarification on the 1,000 feet from the schools, but I agree with Bob's comments there too.
Yeah. Great. I am similarly aligned. I think the buffers as written are sufficient. I specifically like the fact that 665B is stricken, because I always had problems with that particular section. I could be potentially moved on child care center. The issue I have with all of those is, in general, schools don't move that often, right? So if we put the setbacks to schools, we sort of know the map of where these businesses could conceivably be sited. Any of these other use cases are ones that come and go, they take on spaces, and this introduces this variability after the fact. If there was to be a firearms business which was sited, and then activity happens where the owner of one of the other establishments chooses to site itself closer to a firearms business that got legally cited, and then that firearms business comes for a change of some sort of use or an expansion of services, now all of a sudden we have a big can of worms on our hands that we could potentially avoid by just not including those items in the bylaw. So I could be potentially moved to include child care facilities. I don't know, based upon what was researched and presented to this board and the independent research I did regarding a legally operating firearms businesses and the location actually dictating potential future tragedies, I did not find a correlation there, but I could conceivably be moved on that topic. But
So, you open my eyes. I think that's a really good point about schools that can change, especially with respect to preschool or nursery.
Right.
And when I read in here and I see language for junior college or college, I think about Westford, and I think the same thing might hold true for them. Anything we have is not going to be a major campus like a Harvard.
Right.
It's going to be some kind of a satellite program, if anything.
Right.
And we might have the same issue with that.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna move to whatever space is available to meet their needs, and if they get larger or grow smaller, they're gonna move spaces,
Yeah.
so.
yeah, I mean, I guess, would we consider bylaw language that works in the other direction, where we said if a firearms business was to be cited, we wouldn't allow a business that met one of these criteria to be cited in the proximity? Well,
I don't think we can.
I think that is at best problematic.
Yep.
And if you have, say, a childcare center, that's a protected use.
Yep.
As you know. So I think this is a one-way situation.
got it. Okay.
But along those lines, is it possible with an existing firearm business that it's grandfathered so that if this does happen after they open up,
Right.
they won't have a problem with an expansion in services
Yeah.
to the point that you raised, and
Right.
then we don't get into an issue with putting in preschool or nursery or child.
Is that in there?
care.
I think there was some
There is
language in there, but if
language. Yeah.
that's, an
665.
important consideration for you, we can ask council to look at that particular language.
Yeah, Bob, if you look at 6653, it does address that.
Yep. Yep.
That's one of the new proposed language
Yeah.
additions.
It does, but it doesn't address the case that Dylan brought up about an expansion or change of services. So if they were to add one of the other types of firearm businesses, how would that section apply? That's, I guess, the concern we have.
So I guess that would be something for town council, Jeff, is to see if 6653 could include that essentially a special permit already granted to a legally operating business that was looking for an expanded use, it would be exempt from setbacks. I guess it would be all other setbacks other than another firearms business.
Yep, we can have them look at that too.
Okay, great. Anything else on buffers? No. Great. Then we will move on to.
So what is the consensus then for the language that we're going to work with council? I heard you're all in favor of the separation of distance to firearm businesses.
Yep.
I heard you're all in favor, I believe, of the 1,000-foot buffer to schools.
Yep.
I've heard two maybes of a kind, for one very strong for childcare centers, and one I characterize as sort of a weaker maybe. So,
And I would add to that, Jeff, we were kind of chatting privately here, but childcare and preschool. It's a slightly different definition.
so again, where does
preschool-
that?
Preschool fits under school, right?
No,
Well,
no,
usually
preschool
childcare
is different than
yeah.
elementary.
Yeah, childcare centers very often have preschool, so.
It didn't get included in our school language.
Yeah, Mike. Yes, Mike.
So so I get on the record on this, it almost seems that we're starting to go down again another path. If we're looking for grandfather exceptions and whatnot, I'd be in favor of not including the language for the child care centers. Just the schools
Yep.
would be my preference.
What about preschools?
So again, a preschool is a daycare center. It starts to expand the definition, and again, I think just the established schools or any new school itself would be where I would stand. Again, I think they can come and go, and they do come and go.
Yeah.
And then now we're adding language about grandfathering, and it's becoming more complicated again than,
Yeah.
in my opinion, than it needs to be.
I'm inclined to generally agree with Mike on that.
think at the end of the day, we want a bylaw that's gonna pass,
Yep,
and I think the more complex we make it,
yep,
the less
likely.
chance it's gonna have to pass.
agreed. So, how do we feel?
Yep, I'm good with that.
I understand the concern, so based on that, I'm okay.
Okay.
So I'm
sounds
taking
like-
that to mean just separation distance between firearm businesses and 1,000 foot to schools.
Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. I think we have alignment there. All right, we're on to the topic of firing ranges. So as I understand this, this would be questioning whether or not we eliminate E, firing ranges, from 666 item 1 as a description of the various activities that are included in the definition of firearms businesses.
I had no problem with keeping it in here.
Yep.
I think it just allows for those, other than the two grandfathered, that they fall under some sort of review. However, in discussing this with Jeff earlier, a firing range is already included as a commercial recreation
Right.
facility, so it would be redundant. And so, the review of that facility, would obviously, could be handled under commercial recreation, with the exception of a firing range that has additional services as listed in this bylaw.
Right, which some of them do, right? They might rent firearms for use, say, by people going to the range who don't own, or they might sell ammunition, at which point they would be governed by this bylaw because they're suddenly selling ammunition and they would need to come before us for a special permit.
Right, in which case it would be two. It would be one for commercial recreation and one for
Special
the
permit.
special permit for the additional firearm-related business services.
Yep.
So, just to be clear, we don't have a binding opinion yet, a zoning opinion, that it would obviously translate into a commercial recreation facility. I think you heard throughout the process, town council speculated that might be the case, but we never seek to pre-bind a building commissioner for making their determination. We always say they make it on a case-by-case basis with the information in front of them. Because if they're not defined, you look to what category does it most likely fall under. We agree, it seems most likely it would be commercial recreation, which would require a special permit. I cannot guarantee you that until we have a specific proposal with a formal opinion by the building commissioner, though.
In which case, keep it in. And we could remove it later.
So the question here was whether to remove firing range from the definition of firearm business, not just from section 66.
Right.
Yeah, you're also talking about
And references throughout.
6654D.
10-2, 10-2.
Yes, that's, because in the special permits governing firing ranges wouldn't be a thing. Correct. For this bylaw. So that's a high-level question we have. Do you want to remove firing ranges
Yep.
from the definition of firearm business?
Not until we have that opinion, it sounds like.
But we can't give you an opinion until we have an application.
Right.
And the building commissioner reviews it and writes a written opinion.
Jeremy, I think you prefer to keep it in. I'm just in the interest
I
in-
want to make sure it's covered. And what I'm hearing here is if we don't have it in, there's
Well, okay.
how would it get reviewed?
Johnny, what are your thoughts?
I agree with Bob. I think the two existing businesses being grandfathered is fine, but I do think in case it isn't covered under commercial recreation, it should be here.
Okay. Darren?
I just think if there's a firing range, they're gonna sell ammo. That's what they do. That's, I think, their business model, right? Or they're gonna rent weapons to use. I mean, they're not, unless they're just charged by the hour to have people bring their own stuff down there. I mean,
But at that point, you're really talking about a sportsman's club, which is the two use cases we have in town. Are more sportsman's clubs. They're not a firing range. They're not called. I suppose they have firing ranges, but they're called clubs because people tend to bring their own equipment to use a facility, and it's just a facility.
right.
So, yes, Jeff.
I'm wondering if, I've heard repeatedly from the board tonight, they're looking to try to address, the greatest concerns of the police department, maybe we should see if the chief is willing to weigh in
Yes.
about how he feels about firing ranges.
Yeah, Chief, how do you feel about firing ranges?
So I do feel like there's a difference between the firing range and the sportsman's clubs. The sportsman's clubs charge a fee for a membership to keep up the property or the ranges and stuff like that, but they do not sell, lease, or even rent firearms. It does require a firearms dealer license to be able to sell, lease, or even rent a firearm, and same thing with ammunition. Although the sportsman club would be allowed to apply for a license through the state police to be able to sell ammunition, it would only be allowed to be sold, I believe it's only allowed to be sold and used at the range itself. It's not a for-profit business or proposition. Whereas a firing range, they would have to come in, they would have to, the principal owner, and I would say anybody that is probably going to be on the premises, would need to have, again, this is where I would have to look into it, because we don't generally deal with the firearms business itself, but it would at least be the licensed owner would have to come in for a firearms dealer license in order to sell, rent, or lease firearms, which if anybody here has ever been to one of the firing ranges in the area or up in New Hampshire, you do pay a fee to rent a firearm, and then you do purchase the ammunition from them. So that would be two separate licenses, and I would just say if that is the intent of the business, and that's the business model, that they need to have both of those licenses, and they are renting, selling, leasing firearms or that ammunition for use at that facility, that does now turn them into a firing range and a retail business. So I do think that there is the ability to be able to separate those two types of use between a firing range versus like a sportsman's club that's all membership based.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I hate to throw a monkey wrench into the works here. Your comments just got me reading the description of activities, and we use the term purchase and sale. We don't use purchase, sale, or rental.
Yep.
Rentals.
Should we be considering rental in the language? And my question would go to Jeff and
Town council.
town council on
Yeah.
that.
So it probably does make sense, Jeff, to have town council look to include renting as into the language in the bylaw amendment, so that we cover that.
Yep.
For firearms and obviously ammunition is purchased.
Yeah, and perhaps I would offer this, and for board comment as well, maybe we ask town council if a specific exclusion for sportsmen's clubs that require a membership fee and don't include any of the services listed in the other uses that we define in the firearms business are exempt from this particular bylaw.
I was gonna say, we could have firing range, then parentheses excluding the existing sportsman's club.
Sportsman club.
Well, we have the exclusion of the existing clubs, I think. It's already in there.
So,
I was.
Yes, hold on, Mike, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so again, I think that, the purpose of this was to satisfy the chief's concerns about the separation. I don't think that it'd be appropriate to include firearm ranges. I think that, firing ranges, I think that, again, I agree that if they do come before us, if they're not already under the commercial recreation, certainly if they're going to be selling ammunition, well, that's our turn to regulate it there.
And I was gonna add, if we do put lease or rental in firearm dealer, then that kind of eliminates the concern, and then we don't need firing range.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that's key, we have to have the rental or lease in
Well,
there.
and yeah, maybe that's captured under 10.2 section B, where we add clarifying language there, Jeff, that says firing range, a facility designed for firearm training and or shooting practice with services inclusive of firearm rental and ammunition sales for users of the establishment or of the range.
It would also be up under 6661, which
Yep.
is the description of the activities, where it says purchase and sale. We need to add rental in some of those.
yep. So we can certainly ask council about that and carry the thought of rental throughout.
Yep.
My only simple thinking is, if we're saying purchase, lease, sale, rental, whatever, of firearms and or ammunition, it seems to me like the type of firing range that you're talking about would then be considered a firearm business, and you can completely remove firing range.
That's what we're
and
saying.
still have your,
Yes.
okay, so I don't,
Agreed.
So wait, you guys are now saying remove fire.
I'm saying
firing range.
if we put lease or rental.
If we have purchase, sale, or rental
Rental.
Then we
of
can take
firearms.
firing range out.
Firing range can go.
Great, I agree with that.
okay, let's move on.
Okay.
So then that's for firearms and firearm accessories.
Yeah,
Obviously, you really don't lease ammunition.
yeah.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so we can look at that language when it comes back from town council. I believe we're on to the next topic, which is the number of permits, which in this draft removes caps and categories around the number of special permits, and I believe it's essentially just the fact that a special permit is required for any operation. Comments on that? We can start.
I think town meeting spoke. We're gonna listen to that
Yep.
and proceed on, and hopefully we get Big Al's support for what we have here.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I think what we have here is.
Agreed.
Darren? Yep. Yeah, and I mean, the thing that I would, that I would remind members of the audience who might be here tonight or watching this remotely is I would encourage you to go back and read the packet from, I don't know, Jeff, we can probably find the date. It was one of the public hearings. It was an opinion letter offered by KP Law, and it said that this board would maintain broad discretion in how it chooses to administer or hand out special permits, depending on whether or not it feels that the needs of the town are satisfied from a business that already exists based upon a future application. This board is not compelled to necessarily grant special permits simply because an applicant comes before it and requests one.
I don't recall the meeting date.
I don't either, but I know that there's an opinion letter from KP Law in one of the meeting packets that spoke to that effect. And I would encourage people to read that.
And I think it would be in everyone's best interest if, when we have that refined language, that we get an updated opinion from council, so it
Yep.
clearly speaks to this version.
Yeah, and given opinions we've heard on people's relative confidence in their elected officials, I would remind people that, again, a special permit requires a supermajority vote of the special permit granting authority. So that would be 4 of 5 votes would need to be affirmative to grant a special permit, as a reminder, just so that we're very clear about what this board is considering right now. Okay. Any more comments on number of permits? Sounds like we're aligned there.
I think, I'd like to make one comment.
Sure, please.
I'm looking out, watching the faces in the audience. I think while we're not gonna limit the number of permits as we discussed before, we discussed 2, we discussed 4.
Yep.
We discussed 7 and 8.
Yep.
When we were going through the earlier process. There is still a pretty substantial restriction in terms of how many businesses can get cited within this community due to economics, due to the 500-foot separation, and the availability of storefronts that are in the district that we're considering.
Correct.
We are not opening this up across all of Westford.
Correct.
We've got it in a very strict overlay district. And so
Correct.
there's still a limitation in terms of how many of these types of business could be opened up without calling out the specific number.
Yes. Thank you. Good comments, Bob. Okay, and I think the only other item I had was section 668, number 5, but you're already going to get the opinion of town council on that. Does the board have any other topics we should cover or anything else they would like to direct town staff to take to town council for opinion or comment or language?
Looking forward to hearing feedback from our comments tonight.
Yep. Mike, anything else before we move to the next topic?
No, I think I'm good. Thank you, Dylan.
Yep. No problem. Yep.
The only one I have is, I still got to look at this, but there was the article in the Boston Globe back on the 16th of October regarding the frame game, as they called it. And I'd like to make sure that the definitions we've used here cover all of the firearm and firearm components that we want regulated. Because what they were discussing there is what happened in Littleton was due to the way that the guns are being sold as piece parts. And I think we want to improve
So I would
upon
just-
that.
I would just be very careful with that, because I don't believe that we can regulate how they're going to sell firearms or the firearms parts itself. I think that the reason why I was requesting the buffer is it does make it more difficult for how that frame game was being practiced in the mill. You would have several dealers within this close of a proximity, kind of in cahoots as to how they were gonna sell firearms that were not under the mass approved roster. Whether you feel, or whether you agree with the mass approved firearms roster or not, it's still like, those are the rules.
Yeah, okay.
So I think that if you make it a little bit more difficult for those types of practices to occur by separating those businesses, I think you're going to limit the opportunities to be able to do that.
Okay.
But I don't think that you can limit, a firearms dealer from, if they're selling parts and firearms that are approved, there's.
Well, if I read the article too, it's not just limiting, it's also which dealers are defined as a firearms dealer. I want to make sure that we pick up the broad definition so that all of the businesses would fall under this special permit process.
I think that just by saying and mentioning the sale, rental, lease of firearms and firearms components, they still have to be a licensed dealer to sell firearms components as well.
It's the components, that's the piece of language we need to make sure we've covered. I think we have, but
Can we ensure with town council that firearm components is properly called out?
We'll raise the question. We might need to involve council directly for a conversation here, I
Yes.
think, with the board.
That would be fantastic.
Wouldn't it?
Sure. One, I guess, last thing before we move on to public hearing topics, and that is, I guess, since we're here, let's get the opinion of the board. I feel that it would be beneficial to see the language that comes back from town council in a general business discussion before we open for public hearing. Does the board agree with that?
Yes, absolutely.
yeah.
Mike, any objections to that?
I agree. Thanks, John.
Yep, no problem.
Can I ask one other question? 668, paragraph 5, it is being taken out. Is that being
It's-
taken out,
It's
Jeff? Yeah, I'm asking.
He's gonna have he's asking town council's opinion because it seems redundant to 4.
To,
6684.
6684.
okay.
It's very
okay.
similar.
Yes, it is. Okay,
Make sure we're not.
got it. Okay.
So he's gonna get the
Yep,
opinion.
yep.
Okay.
That's awesome. I just wanted to be.
And the other part of that opinion is to make sure we can still do that
Yep.
in light of what could be a new state law.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
just wanted to clarify.
Great,
Thank you.
so, understanding town council may be busy, we will expect to have a general business topic on this, and again, just to follow up on the process, that we will consider the language back, and at that time, Chairman Bonifant, if he's back, he can make the decision on whether he's taking public comment in that general business discussion before we open it to a public hearing process, at which point we will hear everybody's opinion who wishes to stand up and make a comment.
Well, I would clarify, I don't think you meant a public hearing process, I think you meant general business discussion.
The next one.
The public hearing would not occur until after we got something on the warrant. And there's-
Technically, you often hold you commence your public hearing before there's a warrant set.
Okay, because I think we still would like to probably discuss this with the select board before we got into a public hearing
I
process.
guess that depends if we feel we want to co-sponsor it, which I am not personally of the opinion that that's necessary, but we can certainly have that discussion in our next general business conversation.
Yeah, I think we should,
Let's discuss it,
yeah.
but not tonight.
And the other last question is, what is the deadline for annual town meeting and the submission of articles? We don't need to know it tonight, but we should probably start tracking that at the next meeting.
We can certainly provide you with an update. We'll be doing something similar for multifamily housing, because we're bringing that to the, hopefully, annual town meeting.
Okay.
But it is up to the select board to determine when, if there is a special town meeting, when it is, and which articles make it onto what warrant. So that's the purview of the select board.
Well, I didn't ask for, no, so I asked for annual.
Right, again, it's up to the select board to say which town meeting this topic makes it to.
Okay.
The limit is, once you first have the public hearing notice, you must generally, town meeting must generally act within 6 months of that. So that is the outside window.
Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Fantastic. Then that will conclude general business item A. The discussion pertaining to firearms bylaw is concluded. We are moving on to our public hearing topics for the evening. If folks are not sticking around for public hearing topics, we can give a moment for the room to clear. Otherwise, we'll move on. Thank you, Chief Chambers, for your attendance tonight, and thank you for the insights that you shared. That was helpful.
Thanks, Chief.
All right. We are moving on to public hearing items. First public hearing item is PB 2317, site plan review, stormwater management permit at 0 and 210 Littleton Road. My understanding from Jeff's comment at the start of the meeting is that the applicant has requested continuation with no discussion to our next meeting of...
November 20th.
I'll make a motion that we continue this until 20th of November at 7 PM.
Second.
Motion and a second to continue the item to November 20th. All those in favor, this is a roll call. All those in favor say aye. Bob?
Aye.
Joni?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
And I say aye. All right. We move on to our next public hearing item. That is PB 2318, site plan review, special permit for War Pod at 487 Groton Road. Good evening. Thank you for your patience as we dealt with general business topic A.
Thank you.
Slightly lighter topic here tonight for us, though, as compared to your general business.
Yes.
Here tonight, Matt Waterman with Land Tech Consultants, Dave Guthrie with 487 Groton Road LLC, the owner of the property and the applicant that is here before us, which you quickly said we're here for 3 items. One is a site plan under 9.4.1, and then 2 special permits, one under 5.1.4 for asking for a parking relief. And then the second thing is the WARPOD, or the Water Resource Protection Overlay District, special permit under section 8.1.7. Our last meeting was on October 23rd, which was your last meeting. We discussed about reducing the impervious areas. We had maintained the parking configuration that's there today with our proposal. And then it was discussed by one of the abutters that if we could try and eliminate some of the impervious area to kind of keep it to where we don't increase the impervious area. We submitted plans the end of last week, and we were able to update the parking configuration. And you'll see in the upper right corner behind the building, we were able to eliminate 1 spot and then some extra impervious area that was hash marked out, not as a parking space anyways. So we reduced the amount of impervious area by 37 square feet. So we're basically keeping it the same. We're not increasing the impervious area in any way, shape, or form. And just quickly, we're here tonight for the garage that's in behind the building. It's shown as shaded the same color as the pavement area. And so we had asked for some additional information on what's being stored in there. David uses it primarily for his business as a contractor. We submitted a cover letter with just at their last job where they were storing construction materials on site in one of the barns at their facility. And it's expected that this will be consistent with that. And then lastly, we had asked for providing a no parking in front of the parking garage, which we added some striping to prohibit parking directly in front of the garage. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know there was a draft decision that was submitted. We had some comments that we submitted just to make sure it was consistent with the most revised plans. And then we also added that it'd be subject to addressing the engineering comments, which came in at the end of last week, and we've read through those and don't have any concerns or questions, and we will be able to address their concerns.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, any comments from town staff related to 487 Groton Road?
No, it's a little confusing because on the one hand, they were planning to put in parking. They've been requested to not put in some of the parking, so they didn't quite need as much relief. But there's a provision that if the commissioner determines in the future that the parking is needed, that they have the ability to put that in. So they still need all the relief, even though they don't necessarily need all the relief in the here and now. You have to assume the worst case scenario, that everything gets built out. We certainly don't want them coming back because they did what was requested of them, reduce the impervious area, and then have to come back for another public hearing process down the road to simply exceed the percent impervious area again. So that's why the decisions are written to grant all the relief, even though they may not be needed in the short term or even long term, is to repeat or process down the road.
Great, understood. Okay, let's start at this end this time. Mike, do you have any comments related to PB 2318, 487 Groton Road?
No, it looks good to me. I thank the developer for working with the residents, but I'm fine with it.
Great. Darren?
Nope. I saw engineering's comments, it looks like they're all addressed, so I think it's fine, and I think it's nice that they were able to accommodate the request from the neighbors too.
Yep.
So,
Great.
while maintaining the ability to add those spots later if needed.
Yep. Joni?
I agree. I appreciate what they've done to meet the abutters, requests, and I think it looks great.
Bob?
Yeah, no, I asked for the no parking, that was good. So, I'm happy.
Good to go. Great. I am similarly fine with this. Thank you very much for your efforts in working with the abutters. I guess before we take action and close the public hearing and take our votes, anybody from the audience care to comment on PB 2318 487 Groton Road? No? Okay.
I do have one question on the decision language.
Okay.
It's just a little confusing, which is item 3 under the project summary. We threw in or it was thrown in the site plan review approval for the daycare center in 1998. Is that even relevant at this time? Because it becomes confusing when you say the project, and the project is really a reference to this project, not that project.
I think it was brought in just for context in the sense that the original site plan didn't define parking very well, and when the applicant or the building owner at the time came in for that daycare, it was the most recent documented defined parking and site plan that was for this building. So I think it's not to confuse the issue. I think it was just to help kind of define when the parking was established. At least that was my
So that now makes sense to me, so I'm gonna maybe suggest that it be separated out as a separate item, because tying those two topics together just reads confusing in here.
What page are you on?
I'm on the decision, page 1 of 8.
Which decision? The parking reduction, the
Site plan
It's
review.
site plan review.
Okay.
It's in all of them.
Yeah, it's all,
Basically,
yeah.
the
It's just,
opening project summary, the third paragraph down. We can separate that out if it's,
Mr. Waterman's
Oh, yeah,
comments
yeah.
now
I
help
see
me
it.
understand why it's in here. I read this and was like, it would seem to me that that decision had long lapsed, but
Yeah,
now
it
I
is.
understand.
yeah, just to give some context and
Yeah.
Property history and then maybe project summary, would that be more appropriate?
I just think, I think that the project received a variance is the current project. I understand that, but it seemed like it was tying it back
agree.
to a 25-year-old decision, which it's not.
So we'll
We can make
put
that
property,
change.
we'll do a property history before project
Yeah,
summary?
that's a good idea, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
that's fine.
Great.
I'm good. That's the only thing,
All right. Okay, good.
I'm happy to see what we're done.
So,
And do we know what the new percentage on impervious surface is with the
It's the
reduction?
same, it's the 68 point,
The 67 point?
yeah, and sorry, I don't have it written down, but
Right,
we
so,
reduce it by 37 square feet, but the number stays the same as what's theirs today, the 66.8%.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Jeff, didn't mean to cut you off.
but if they had to put in eventually the parking, that's why it would be an increase, which is why they need the relief.
No, I mainly asked because, we had a request from the abutter
yeah,
about keeping it the same, and I just wanted to see if that was in fact achieved, which it was
Yeah.
by eliminating those spaces.
okay. All right. Are we prepared to close the public hearing?
Yes. Yes.
Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing on PB 2318. All those in favor say aye. Bob?
Aye.
Joni?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
And I say aye. All right. Jeff, just been out of the saddle a minute. So we handle each of these decisions independently. We don't need to call out all of the conditions, just...
You could just make reference to the decisions in the packet as amended.
As amended this evening. Great. Is there a motion to approve the parking reduction for PB 2318 at 487 Groton Road as amended via discussion this evening?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second on the parking reduction. All those in favor say aye. Bob?
Aye.
Joni?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
And I say aye. All right, hold on, scrolling. Is there a motion to approve PB 2318, the special permit for the Water Resource Protection Overlay District at 487 Groton Road as discussed and amended this evening?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Bob?
Aye.
Joni?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
And I say aye. All right, home stretch here is, okay, PB 2318, site plan review for 487 Groton Road. Is there a motion to approve the site plan review as amended via discussion this evening?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Bob?
Aye.
Joni?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
And I say aye. I believe we are done. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay. Concludes that item.
Sorry.
We are moving on to our next, wait a minute. Something must be wrong in the packet. Because this is also PB 2318 at 400 Littleton Road. Am I the only one seeing this? There are two PB 2318s in the packet?
Yeah, you're right.
Yep, that's a flaw.
Is that 2319?
2319 is
It's
Kimball
400
Farm.
Littleton Road, is 2319.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is PB 2319, site plan review and a special permit at 400 Littleton Road for commercial recreational use. Good evening.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Cheryl Gould for the applicant, and I'm here with the engineers. They probably have more to say than I do. And I just want to thank your staff for writing such a beautiful draft decision. It really incorporated everything.
Great, thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening. For the record, Russ Tedford with Hancock Associates was one of the civil engineers on this project. Last week, end of last week, we're in receipt of engineering department comments. To just briefly run through them. There's a note about soil testing, as well as some comments about O&M, as well as some drafting that we can incorporate in a revised plan. But yeah, we're committed to both working with the building commissioner and the Board of Health and addressing any concerns they may have going forward with this.
Great. Yeah, I think we got this letter where you replied to the engineering comments.
Yeah, that should have been issued at the end of the day today.
Great. All right, fantastic. Anything else to share, or can we, town staff, anything, Jeff?
No, it sounds, you're amenable to the draft decisions.
All the conditions were agreeable, yes.
It's really just satisfying, I think, minor technical issues with engineering. You know, they're very good stewards on your behalf, and, you know, they technically work out these small things. And if there's an issue, they'll be back, but I don't foresee that.
Great. All right, excellent. Then we'll go to the board for comment. We'll start on this end again. Mike, any comments on PB 2319?
No, I'm good. I'm good with the draft decision.
Excellent, thank you. Darren?
Nope, main concern was engineering comment about maintenance, and that's been addressed, so I'm happy with it.
Great. Joni?
No, I agree that the engineering comments have been addressed, so as long as they're addressed, I'm happy.
Great. Bob?
No,
You're good?
I'm good.
Great.
Everything's fine.
I am similarly good. So, we will go to the public. Anybody here tonight to comment on PB 2319, 400 Littleton Road, Kimball Farm? Seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing for PB 2319?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing for PB 2319. All those in favor say aye. Bob?
Aye.
Joni?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
And I say aye. We did not amend this decision at all, so is there a motion to approve site plan review for PB 2319 as in the packet?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve PB 2319. All those in favor say aye. Bob?
Aye.
Joni?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
And I say aye. Is there a motion to approve PB 2319, the commercial recreation special permit at 400 Littleton Road, Kimball Farm?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the commercial recreation special permit. All those in favor say aye. Bob?
Aye.
Joni?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
And I say aye. And I think that is it. Thank you very much.
I just think we should crack a bottle of champagne or something for the first one coming in into the C-Rod. Thank you very much.
Did you bring any?
Maybe at the grand opening ceremony.
there you go.
At the grand opening ceremony.
Well,
That would be
invite you
fantastic.
all. Thank you.
Well, I saw a story in the news today that they're gonna open a museum of ice cream in Boston next year.
Oh, cool.
Not if we get there first.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay. I believe that concludes our public hearing items for this evening. We move back into general business with item B, which is PB 2321, a request to authorize administrative review and approval for a change in use from a non-exempt use to a veterinary hospital or clinic. Do we have an applicant with us this evening?
We do.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Doug Troyer. I represent AVG Intermediate Holdings LLC. With me tonight is Chris Smith, who's Senior Project Manager for AVG. As this board has just read, we're here seeking a administrative site plan review concerning the use at one of the suites at the Westford Valley Marketplace. I believe this board is well aware that this property is located in the town's commercial highway zoning district. It currently contains a multi-tenanted commercial retail shopping plaza and associated parking. My client has entered into a lease agreement to lease out one of the suites at this property, and as is being shown on the screen, it's approximately 3,200 square foot space located in the area that's being depicted on the screen. The suite is approximately 3,200 square feet. My client intends to conduct only interior build-out to the suite. The structure and the size of the buildings will remain the same, and the only exterior modification for the proposed project will be a sign. I've taken a look at prior planning board decisions concerning this site, and I'm aware that there's a comprehensive sign plan that's been previously approved by this board back in 2019 that identifies exactly what you can or can't do due to the numerous applications that were coming before the board for all of these tenants, and we intend to abide by that comprehensive sign application. Chris is here tonight if you have any operational questions about Urgent Vet, but in essence, this Urgent Vet is it's been founded. There's approximately about 55 sites currently, mostly in the South, North South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, and then some out west in Colorado, Texas, and Arizona. Urgent Vet has been looking to come into the New England area, and this is one of the first areas that they are seeking to bring what we believe is a fantastic idea to New England. As this board is also aware, pursuant to use regulations, a veterinary hospital or clinic is an as-of-right use in this area. We applied and spoke with the building commissioner. We're informed that pursuant to your bylaws, given that there was a prior use of a learning center, which was a non-exempt educational use, because we are changing that use to, even though it is an as-of-right use, we still need to come before you. And pursuant to conversations with the building inspector, I was advised to bring an administrative site plan review, which is what we're here tonight for. In the plan, do you mind going to the floor plan? Thank you, Joe. Basically, what they are looking to do is, as I indicated, it's only internal layout. In essence, they're looking to build out by constructing 7 exam rooms,
what I have identified as a lab that I'll get into, reasoning why I may reconsider that term in the future, and pharmacy areas, 2 ADA compliant restrooms, comfort suite, and a break room. They are proposing to operate hours of operation between 3 p.m. and 11 p.m. Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. on weekends, 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. on holidays. Reason for these hours is the whole purpose of Urgent Vet is to provide a service that's beyond your day-to-day family vet, where you're going for annual visits, checkups and things like that, and then trying to avoid having the need to go to an emergency hospital where as soon as you walk in the door, you're paying $150 just to walk in the door. This is an opportunity for those homeowners or those pet owners who have a pet that has a mild illness or something that comes up and they want to see, do I need to go to the emergency room? Can I wait till the next day? But this dog or this pet or this cat is exhibiting symptoms that we're concerned about. This is an opportunity for them to go, typically during after hours, to basically get those answers. And it has been quite a useful service in the South, and we believe it's going to be a tremendous service up here in New England, particularly for those pet owners who have been to Angel Memorial or have been to Tufts or wherever at 10 o'clock at night for something that may not have been that serious. So it's a great option, and we're hoping that this board finds that is the case as well. Real quick, we did get some comments from bear with me. We did get some comments from the fire department. They indicated that they have no objections to this change of use, but wanted to make sure that we were aware that any modifications to the fire protection systems will require an application. Affidavits basically supporting that. If in fact we do look to make modifications, we will comply with those and are satisfied with those conditions being placed on this if necessary. We also obtained a comment from the water department that was just informing us that if there's a need, they needed to perform a cross-connection survey once any build-out is completed. Obviously, that is acceptable to us as well. And going back to my original statement about lab, we got a comment from the Board of Health trying to get a sense as to what hazardous medical waste in which we were basically proposing at this site. Concern about this being in an area that's Mass DEP oversees and so on and so forth. Fortunately, I had the ability to have communications with the Board of Health. Sam, I forget what his last name is, Fontaine, I believe it is, on Friday to clarify exactly what the use is that my clients are proposing to do there. And in essence, when I say lab and when I use the term lab, it was more for basically saying we have an area that's a lab that will have a microscope and a centrifuge. That is basically the extent of what the lab use is on this site. Any blood work or that is taken or anything which is inspected, my client engages Sharp Medical Waste in all of their, I believe all of their locations, which is a well-known medical waste pickup provider for all hospitals as well as veterinarians, who comes and picks up any and all medical waste of which may be generated as a result. The same is for the pharmacy. The pharmacy is an area that has these machines that basically give out single doses. Those doses are then administered to the pet and then basically placed into a Sharp's medical container, which is then picked up as well. At the end of the day, no hazardous or medical waste are put into the water system at all. The sinks and the toilets are basically being used for washing your hands, cleaning your hands, so on and so forth. I then, after explaining that to the Mr. Fontaine, he advised me to contact Mass DEP, who submitted the actual comments. I spoke with the local person, who then advised me to contact somebody higher up. I was shocked and very happy to say that I had communications back and forth, explained the same situation. Got an email late this afternoon from Mass DEP asking us to provide a list of the cleaning supplies and or any chemicals in which we were using. At the end of the day, it's pretty much household items. It's mostly Dawn soap, it's detergent, Lysol, some bleach, things along those lines. I tend to provide that information, that list, along with the data sheets that identify exactly what's in those to Mass DEP, and we're hopeful that the requirement that we do a tight tank will not be necessary for the site now that we have explained the lab and pharmacy use. With that, I do have Chris here, and happy to discuss, any information about urgent event you may want, and we're hopeful that the board will grant our request for change of use.
Fantastic, thank you.
Jonah, I apologize if I can interrupt for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to drop out. I just want to say I fully support this as administrative review, and I apologize I have to leave the meeting early.
Oh, okay, no problem.
See you, Mike.
Have a good
Thanks,
night,
Mike.
Mike. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Jeff or Joe, any comments from town staff?
No more roll call vote.
Can we switch midstream?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
No one's remote. so.
Fantastic.
Otherwise, I think the applicant covered, in their presentation.
Yep. Okay, great. So given that, who would like to go for Bob?
Yeah, look, so I apologize. I had asked Jeff this morning. I missed where the hours of operation were. I now see them in the packet. I do have a couple questions. One, I see the area you call treatment. Do you perform any kind of minor surgeries?
No surgeries.
Okay.
Sutures very occasionally, but no surgery, no overnight stays.
That was my, you're getting to my next question, but just checking, like, no use of gases of any type?
No medical gases
No
whatsoever.
medical gases, so we don't have to have a
Oxygen,
special permit?
oxygen in tanks, but nothing in the building. No centralized oxygen.
Yeah, I just don't know what the volume is that would be regulated with Henry.
It
Jeff,
might
how
be
much?
more a fire.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure that because we have had to have some special permits in the past, so just want to make sure we don't overlook that so they can have the
Typically,
oxygen.
what we'll try and do is put a cage outside.
Okay.
So because of the hours of operation, it's actually kind of difficult to get deliveries of oxygen between the hours of 3 and 11. So we typically will put a cage outside.
Okay. And I think you just clarified, because I noticed there was no kennel.
Yeah, no
No
overnight
boarding,
stays,
no overnight stay of
boarding,
animals.
No,
No boarding, no grooming.
yeah.
I wasn't worried much with boarding as I was about an animal that had to be watched overnight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, having had a few dogs myself, I'm aware of what happens,
Yeah.
so.
Absolutely.
I'm good.
Good. Joni?
No, they very well answered my questions on the lab space
Yeah.
and concerns there, so I'm great, thank you.
Oh, I'm fine with administrative review. Thank you.
Great. Jeff, just for my edification, because I don't feel I've ever seen a pharmacy come before us, nothing with regard to drug handling or anything like that this board needs to consider? Or is that a different board's purview, Board of Health? or
If it
something like
is a purview, I don't believe it's your purview.
that? Fantastic. Okay. Great. So is there a motion to approve administrative review and approval for PB 2321, 160 Littleton Road, urgent vet, you said?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You all
Thank you.
have a good
Appreciate
evening.
it.
Have a good
Thank
evening
you.
as well. Good luck.
Thank you.
Sounds like a good service for the town.
Yes,
We're
yeah,
excited to be here.
it's gonna be great.
What's the target you're gonna plan to open?
Well, still a building permit has to be obtained, so probably end of first quarter, 2024.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it for your help.
All right, we're on to general business, item C, which is PB 2322. Again, a request to authorize administrative review and approval for a change in use to add a personal services establishment, yoga classes to an existing retail sales to the general public business at 175 Littleton Road. Good evening.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Good. I'm Diane Riley. I'm the owner of SunMed, your CBD store, on 175 Littleton Road. And we've been in business about 1.5 years now, and we just wanted to add other services to offer our customers. So we were thinking of providing some yoga classes in the morning. Our store hours are 10 to 6, so we have a lot of time in the morning and some time at night that we've been kind of doing a little survey with our customers. They love the idea, so here I am.
Okay. Great. read through the items in the packet. Seems fairly straightforward, but Jeff or Joe, anything the board should consider with regard to this application?
Nothing out of the ordinary, other than the comments that we received from other departments.
Right.
And none of them seem to have any major issues.
Yep, I didn't see anything from fire that was a concern. I guess there was, saw something in here about ensuring that there's sufficient space, but I think a comment back from you saying that you were gonna limit the size of the class to maybe 6 to 10 participants or something like that?
12 to 15
12 to 15,
tops,
sorry.
yeah,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have plenty of room.
Okay.
We have about 1,400 square feet.
Gotcha.
And I
Great.
know that there was a comment, I think, from Ray Dick regarding just, worried about being clean and checklists, and we have all that anyways. My store's immaculate, and we've just added extras, as well as we won't be providing any yoga mats or anything like that. People will be required to bring their own, because I don't want to have to deal with keeping those clean.
Yep.
So they're required to bring their own.
Great. And then you just sort of, I guess, mop the floor after the class and open for business.
In between each one.
Yeah, gotcha. Great. Alrighty, go to the board for comment. Bob, any comments?
Well, now I do. My only comment would be going back to Henry and make sure there's no problem with 12 to 15. He reviewed it for 6 to 10. I don't think there's an issue, especially given the early hours and the late hours, but I just want to make sure that he has no concerns regarding parking or anything else related to that increase in numbers, which would be an increase in 5.
Yeah, I had already talked to my landlord. He had mentioned that as well, worried about parking and stuff. Truthfully, that early in the morning, no other businesses in the strip is even open. But we will require all of our, actually except the dentist.
Yep.
And we'll require all of our customers to park along the street. There's parking like in front of my store, and then there's parking behind it, which is facing the road, so we'll just have all of our customers park along there.
6 to 10 seems like a misremembrance on my part, Bob. It is in there as class sizes 12 to 15 people is in the letter in the packet. So that was
Yeah,
just
I
me.
was
That was me.
gonna say,
misremembering.
I've had many conversations with Henry already.
Yep,
I'm looking at page 115 of our packet, and it says, how many do you anticipate at one time to participate? And it says, I'm guessing from you, my guess would be between 6 to 10 people.
Oh, there it is. Okay, wow. My memory's better than I thought.
It was from an email from you.
It's possible, that was before, yeah, then the email that I had sent said 12 to 15, so it is contradictory.
Yep.
So I just want to make sure that we
Absolutely.
have that cleanly on the record and have the right review done.
So are you amenable, just subject to
Yep.
satisfactory
Yeah.
review of the class size by building
Yeah,
commissioner?
I don't see a big concern. I got to make sure that we've done everything by the books
Hey, I
here.
hope I get 12 to 15 in there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, great. Anything else, Bob?
No.
Joni?
My only question is restroom space.
I have 2.
You have 2, so.
I have 2 restrooms.
2 restrooms,
Mhm.
okay. Okay, I assume that meets code, so.
I do
Or
too,
engineering,
with-
or engineering would have picked it up, but,
Henry's,
yeah, okay, that was it.
Yeah, and that's only recently, like, they've already been through the process.
Oh, yeah,
of
we already
having
went
fit
through
up.
all that, opening the store the first time.
Very confident what's
What-
there meets.
Jeff has seen my space.
My point is, I guess.
It's different use.
A different use,
Yep.
and, store, you may have a customer that needs, but when you get down to yoga class, after being in a class from one who, goes to a health club, at the end of the class, you need the restroom. So I'm thinking 10 people or, 15 people, all of a sudden you need a restroom,
Sure,
so.
absolutely. Again, we have 2 clean. We redid them both, so,
Unisex, I take it?
yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
yeah, then I'm fine.
Great. Darren?
No, I think Board of Health would opine or if there was an issue with bathroom, facilities and stuff. So I
He's
think
already
I'm
seen my
comfortable.
space too. I've had everybody in my space.
Seems like something that will limit itself through participation.
Yeah.
I think you should all come and take a class. And learn more about CBD.
Don't threaten me with a good time. All right, so, great. Then is there a motion to approve, now that one's locked up on me, PB 2322, is it? I think it is.
Yes.
322.
2322 at 175 Littleton Road for administrative review and approval.
Moved.
Second?
Motion and a second to approve PB 2322 for administrative review and approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Best of luck.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night.
You as well.
You guys can get out of here soon.
Very close, very close. All right. Okay, final general business topic, item D, PB 2323, request to authorize, again, administrative review and approval for a change in use from retail sales to the general public to a personal services establishment, a hair salon at 142 Littleton Road. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Amy Bernardo, and this is my business partner, Courtney Brown. And we are going to be, or we are, Rooted Beauty LLC, looking to open on 142 Littleton Road where a touch of tile used to occupy.
Okay.
We're hoping to just change to a hair salon, specializing in curly hair, cutting and styling, also color, some treatments, and facial waxing. So the changes that we're making are just, they're just pretty much cosmetic, not really structural. The biggest thing is the plumbing. We're adding a restroom and hair sinks and that sort of thing.
Okay. Great.
So it's just change of use.
Yeah, change of
really.
use. We already have a tight tank in place.
Okay.
A septic tank, and the Board of Health reviewed that already, and looks like it's up to par.
Great. Awesome. Appears to have planned for a holding tank. Yep, okay, 3,000 gallons. Good. Okay. Great. Jeff or Joe, any feedback from town staff on this?
No, I think the biggest item that you were just talking about were the comments from the health department, so I think if you had, any would just be subject to their review and approval at the building permit stage.
Great. All right, go to the board. Bob?
No comments.
Great. Joni?
No concerns. There was a beauty salon in that space at one point.
There was, yeah, at one point, yeah.
Yep. So, yeah.
So that's why it has a
Yeah,
tight tank?
yeah, no concerns.
Karen?
Nope, no concerns.
Okay. I also do not have any concerns. So, with that, is there a motion to approve PB 2323, change in use at 142 Littleton Road?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve PB 2323. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Great.
Good luck.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you, have a good night.
Yeah, you as well.
You too.
Okay, well, that concludes general business topics for the evening. And I believe we only have meeting minutes left. So, is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes from October 2nd, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
No.
Yeah,
No.
I read through them and they looked good. Great, motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Brings us to the correspondence reports and updates, and we have our 2024 meeting dates laid out. Any feedback, comments, or discussion on the meeting dates for 2024?
So I just have one question.
Okay.
We have Tuesday, January 2nd, or January 8th. And then the next block is Tuesday, January 16th, or January 22nd. So if we do, are we talking about doing like 2 and 22, or are we talking about 8, do they go like top and bottom, or how do they correlate?
2 and 16 maybe,
Or 2 and 16, which is the day
Let's
after?
make a decision tonight, but we wanted to include in your package just so you could
Oh,
review.
okay.
And see if one of those dates in that area make any sense.
Well, I know we
If
always.
only need one, usually you only have one in January because of the.
Can we get this room on Tuesdays? I thought there was another board use this room on Tuesdays.
Well,
So it
select board
depends
is
on the
second
Tuesday.
and fourth, but-
Of course it does.
So the other thing is there are some variables hanging out there that we don't know about yet, such as,
Firearms public hearing.
yes, I wasn't going to say that one, but then also multifamily zoning. Like, it's a big enough topic that you may well want to have a dedicated meeting to that, because there's a lot to that one. So, so it's not the worst. You can always schedule a special meeting, and so it might not be the worst to be a little sparse early on, because we know that's going to be hitting in the range of when we're going to need public hearings for at least multifamily housing.
Yes.
And
whatever else.
So the 2nd February we missed because of President's Day, right?
I believe you are correct.
Yeah. April, May, June.
It's just that if we pick a date and you say, this might be for multifamily zoning, once it's published, people submit to try to get on for that date, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So,
You don't have to necessarily decide tonight, but think about it.
but maybe next meeting.
Well,
You might
I
need
mean,
to decide.
is it fair to say that we think 2 meetings in January probably makes sense?
Probably given everything that's going on.
Yeah. So we probably need 2 of them. Is it, if it's possible for town staff to look at what's on the docket and let us know which is better? I mean,
Sure.
I don't know if,
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody knows that they've got, amazing New Year's plans that extend into the 2nd.
You better clear your calendar through the 4th.
Exactly. I don't know. It's gonna be that epic. Asleep, before the ball even thinks about dropping. But at this point, yeah, okay, fantastic. If you can let us know which of those work better, we can pick a couple of dates in January so we make sure we have 2.
Great.
All right.
I just had a couple questions. I noticed we have 2 of the days are falling on Islam holidays. Is that just for information, or?
Information and/or if you felt really strongly that the meeting date should change, we wanted to at least make you aware of them and give you the option.
No,
Although
I was just,
Notice the one that's not marked on here is the most Massachusetts holiday of Patriots Day on April 15th, so that will have to change.
Oh, yeah.
oh,
Our town departments are closed that day, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are actually off that day.
Right.
All right, so April
Right,
15th.
it's a
has to-
legal
That'll have to
holiday.
change.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So we know April 15th will move, and we could consider June 17th or September 16th. The easy way to go is to start summer hours in June instead of July, and then, problem solved. I'm just saying.
Exactly.
It's a great idea. And if you passed annual town meeting,
Yeah.
what
That's
ifs?
why they pay me the big bucks in this job, Jeff. All right.
Yeah, that's worth consideration.
Yeah.
I mean, I try.
Strong consideration.
I mean,
Yeah.
Mike is taking the mic back, next week. I figured I'd get it in while I had the chair. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Have a good evening, everybody.